means educating, advocating for effective, equitable laws and policies. We strive to grow and diversify our membership to reflect the rich and beautiful diversity of our county. It is our members that give us our strength, and it is our members that give us our voice. And we do some amazing work together. This Mobilize Maryland GOTV rally is a good example of how we work to support Democrats. Because we know when Democrats plan, when Democrats organize, when Democrats mobilize, Democrats win. At WDC, we have an eye on next year's election and will be on the front lines doing grassroots work to support President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and Democrats across the country in 2024. We're going to need all hands on deck to hold the White House, to hold the Senate, and to win back the House. And we will be looking to all of you here to help us do that work. Good morning, Governor. Ruth Bader Ginsburg once said, "Real change, enduring change, happens one step at a time." Well, at WDC, we're ready to do the hard work and one step at a time to bring about real change, enduring change. And we plan to do it by building bridges and alliances with so many of you that are doing the grassroots work. I want to thank the entire WDC board. If you could all raise your hands just to be acknowledged. And to all the volunteers who helped put on this event. And please raise your hands if you're volunteering at this event. It truly takes a village. Thank you to the Montgomery County Board of Elections for joining us today. They have voter registration and a sign-up for paid election workers. Election workers get paid a minimum of $250 a day, and they need workers, so please, consider signing up to join. And then a very special thank you to our co-sponsors. We're so grateful to have such a broad and diverse group of co-sponsoring organizations. As Democrats, we all know how important it is for us to work together to uplift each other. And today is a perfect example of what we can do when we collaborate and we mobilize. So I'm going to list all of the co-sponsors, and thank you so much for being here today. And we have a pretty long list, so please pay attention. The Maryland Democratic Party, the Maryland House Democratic Caucus, Montgomery County Democratic Central Committee. And any of you who are here, feel free to clap when you hear your name. Prince George's Democratic Central Committee, Young Democrats of Maryland, University of Maryland Democrats. They're definitely in the house. Association of Black Democrats of Montgomery County, the Latino Democratic Club of Montgomery County, Montgomery County Young Democrats, the African American Diversity Leadership Council, the Continental African Diversity Leadership Council, the Latino Diversity Leadership Council, the LGBTQ+ Leadership Diversity Council, the AAPI Diversity Leadership Council. A few more to go, but they're all important, so I want to make sure we acknowledge all of them. People with Disabilities Diversity Leadership Council, the Senior Diversity Leadership Council, Veterans Diversity Leadership Council, Coalition of Asian Pacific American Democrats of Maryland. District 15 Democratic Caucus. County Democrats. The Germantown Democratic Club. District 16 Democratic Club. And we are in District 16, so I would have thought we would have more clapping for that particular one. District 17 Democratic Club. South County Democratic Club. District 39 Democratic Club. District 20 Democratic Club. Okay, a few more to go, but these are important. Do the most good. Jaywalkers. Indivisible Montgomery. The National Fan-Athletic Council of Montgomery County. Women for Biden-Harris. Maryland Women for Biden-Harris. And the Virginia DC Women for Biden-Harris. So as you can see, we have a very broad list and a diverse list. So thank you all for coming out and supporting this effort. I also want to acknowledge the elected officials that are here. This is not as long a list, so I'm going to go through it quickly. I hope I can read this. Senator Jeff Wallstreicher. Julie Plavicic-Carr. Emily Shetty. Sarah Love, Sarah Wallet, County Council Member Andrew Friedson, and then we have members of the Board of Elections President David Naiman, and we have Michael Beard who is representing Angela Alsabrook's campaign. From the Central Committee, we have Marco Rivera-Oven, Delegate Aaron Kaufman. Shruti Bhattacharya from the Central Committee,
Delegate Nick Allen.
Delegate Nick Allen. Did I miss anyone else? Oh, sorry. Yes, Mark Robles from the Democratic Central Committee. And Lisa Smith from the Democratic Central Committee. So, if I missed anyone else, this is the time.
Juan Dominguez, U.S. Senate candidate.
Oh, sorry.
Juan Dominguez, U.S. Senate candidate.
Okay. Thank you. So now we go on to the rest of the program. So it is first of all, thank you. This is such a great turnout. We are so happy that you could all join us today. So it is such an honor for me to introduce our first speaker this morning. Yvette Lewis is a Yvette is a lifelong grassroots activist with a proven record as a fierce leader for the Democratic Party. As the longest-serving chair, Yvette has overseen successful gubernatorial, presidential, and legislative elections in Maryland. It has always been for her party first. While she's recently stepped down as state chair, 2 days ago, right? Yvette is still going to be fighting for Democrats and for Maryland in her new role as an at-large member of the DNC. She is also the named chair emeritus, sorry. Should have practiced that before I came. of the Association of the State Democratic Committees and reappointed to the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee. Marylanders are so lucky to have her building up Democrats because, as she says, Democrats deliver. Please join me in welcoming Yvette Lewis.
Thank you all so much. I wasn't expecting that, but thank you. You know, she listed all of these things that happened at the DNC, and this was just in the last 2 days. And then I got a pleasant surprise. I was named to a committee to appoint the first recipient of the Nancy Pelosi Chair Emerita Award. So that was wonderful. All of that's wonderful. But nothing was as exciting for me these past couple of days as talking to the Florida delegation and hearing about the historic election in Jacksonville, as talking to Chair Sharif Street in Pennsylvania and hearing about how they flipped a seat in the Pennsylvania State Legislature, or talking to Chair Liz Walters of Ohio and hearing about that historic election to protect reproductive freedom that they just had, or talking to the Wisconsin delegation and hearing about how they put that Supreme Court justice in place. That's what was exciting to me. See, what this week in St. Louis showed me is that the pundits and polls don't know what they're talking about. It shows me that Democrats are winning special elections all over the country because Democrats have turned them off and they're talking to people and they're making sure that people know what the values of the Democratic Party are and what our leaders have to offer. And then we're daring them to say that they don't want clean climate and that they don't want good health care and they don't want safe roads and bridges, and they won't. And when they won't say that, then we say, come join the party that can offer all of that to you. That's why I'm excited to be a Democrat. So I may no longer be your chair, but I am your champion. Every single day, lifting up the state of Maryland, lifting up the Democratic Party, and talking about the values that we have to offer. So thank you. Join me because I am going nowhere, I promise. Thank you all.
So much of that. Your energy is contagious, and we're all so happy you could join us today. Now it is my distinct privilege to introduce Congressman Glenn Ivey. Glenn represents Maryland's 4th Congressional District, and he took office this January, and he is the only Democrat appointed to the House Judiciary Committee as a freshman. And he is also a member of the Ethics Committee and the Committee on Homeland Security. Glenn grew up in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, where the schools of his hometown were still segregated when he started attending. But he watched as his mother, a librarian, desegregate 4 different white schools, as well as his father, who worked for the Federal War on Poverty Agency that helped unemployed workers in eastern North Carolina get job training and find jobs. It was then that Glenn saw the power of public service and the impact that advocates can have on social justice. And ever since, he's been a tireless fighter for our community, and we're so lucky to have him representing us representing Maryland in the Congress. Please welcome Congressman Glenn Ivey.
So much. How you doing today? All right. I'm told that WDC is the place to be. Is that right, Ms. Love? All right. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks for all of you all coming out. I'll be brief. I did want to start off, though. I wanted to say that I was met out in the parking lot by an elected official, and I was coming from a brunch with my daughter. I didn't have my tie on. I said, well, should I put my tie on or not? And she said, well, you know the governor's coming. kind of fancy. So you have to step it up a little bit and put that tie on, so here I am. It was great to be here with our fantastic governor. Isn't it good? We hear a lot about the history that was made here in Maryland by that election, but the beauty to me is not only was history made on that day, but they're making history each and every day with the changes they're making here in the state of Maryland, raising us all up. Keep up the great work. Keep up the great work. And to Yvette, I mean, congratulations. What, you know, talk about out of the frying pan into the fire. Great work. We need you at the national level. I love this crowd. This is one of the few crowds that gets excited and applauds about somebody being named to a rules committee. Y'all some inside baseball, deep in the weeds types here, let me tell you. Well, let me say, I bring greetings from Capitol Hill, or Crazy Town, or Keystone Cops, whatever we want to call it. It's going crazy there, and you all have probably been watching. If you're that inside baseball, you know we just deposed the speaker and all of that stuff. The only thing surprising is that it actually took that long. He's got to be one of the worst speakers we've ever had in the House of Representatives. And what makes it so stunning is that he came right after Nancy Pelosi, who, you know, if we had a Mount Rushmore for speakers, she'd be right there in the middle of it. She was fantastic. Fantastic. So that's why I'm here, in part. We want to make sure we keep up the trend that we were just talking about, the wins in Wisconsin, the wins in Ohio. We need to make sure those keep going. We got another race coming up, I think, in Virginia right around the corner, right? 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 Those are the key polls we need to worry about. Winning these elections, winning in Virginia would be gigantic. So one of the things we want to say, I think, is as you leave here today, we don't have an election in November here in Maryland per se. We're going to have some big ones next year. I see the Angela also go shirt right here. That's a big race coming up, right? Yeah. I'm supporting it 100%. But we got to make sure we win those seats in Virginia. We need to make sure we win there as well, because it's critical for us to win these seats so that next Congress, I don't have to worry about choosing between Jim Jordan and Kevin McCarthy. I can pick Hakeem Jeffries. So here's the thing. So when Barack got elected president, there was this big blowback. Remember that? Yeah. Come on, y'all. That's Tea Party. Do I need to remind you? Remember the blowback we got? Yeah. Okay. Well, listen. The same people who got upset when we had a president named Barack, they're going to be mad when we have a speaker named Hakeem. But you know what? They're just going to have to get over it. So we're going to make it happen, right? So look, we need your help. We need your help to win these elections. The House seats are critical. We're only a handful away from having a majority in the House. You can see what a difference that makes. Somebody asked me when I came in, are they going to shut down the government in whatever it is now, 38 days? My answer is yeah. I think they are. I think they are. Not because they're worried about the impact it's going to have on regular people. Because if you're worried about that, they would have fixed it a long time ago, right? They wouldn't have just given us a 45-day extension and kicked the can down the road. We would have fixed it. Same thing with the debt ceiling. They walked the country up, they walked the world economy up to the edge, so that we had to bail it out at the end. And then same thing with shutting down the government. And then they're mad that we didn't keep the same speaker in place. Give me a break. We had to make a change. I was telling them the other day, somebody asked me about this, and I said, well, us picking the speaker from the Republican Party would be like Ohio State picking Michigan's football coach. With one big difference, Michigan's football coach is actually pretty good at what he's doing. We ain't got that going on down there. So listen, I'll stop here because I want to see the fancy dress guy down at the end give a speech. But look, thank you all for coming out today. You all know the mission, right? You know the challenges we face as a nation. You know we need all hands on deck, and you're ready to jump in and get to the fight, right? Yeah. Are you ready to go? I know the University of Maryland is ready to go, right, Maryland? All right. Keep up the good work, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Glenn, for everything you're doing for Maryland. Our next speaker is the formidable leader in the Maryland House of Delegates, Delegate Jocelyn Pena-Melnick. Jocelyn has represented Prince George's and Anne Arundel counties in the Maryland General Assembly since 2007. She chairs the Health and Government Operations Committee and is a proven fighter for working families. As a child, Jocelyn emigrated from the Dominican Republic to the US with her single mother and sister. Her mom worked in the New York's garment industry and often struggled to make ends meet. But despite tough circumstances, Jocelyn worked hard, succeeded, and thrived. And today, she's committed to making Maryland stronger, fairer, and more inclusive. She says that a passion for public service is at the core of her character, and we are grateful to have her fighting for us in the Maryland General Assembly. Please welcome Delegate Jocelyn Pena-Melnick.
Good morning. Buenos dias. It is really an honor to be here with such distinguished guests. I admire all of you. Yvette, thank you so much for your service to the state of Maryland. Thank you for having me. And I have to say, you could have been anywhere else today because it's so beautiful outside. And you came here because it's important. It really is. And it is important for us to go to Virginia and help our brothers and sisters. And when you go outside, I want you to tell them the following. What do we stand for? What do we fight for? What do we care about, right? We have to learn to speak to voters and to talk about those issues that really matter. So we care about bodily freedom, right? So we're going to fight for reproductive rights. Who proudly defended the bill on the floor, which next year you're going to get to vote on that question. Reproductive right is not just about abortion. Reproductive right, it's about the right to take birth control, have a vasectomy, IVF treatment. It affects everyone, not just women. So you know what, the men in the room, you have to care about it as well. It is important. We care about children in our schools, right? To keep our children safe. So what do we care about? Gun control. Because it is important. Prayers are not enough. I'm sorry. Prayers are important, but it is not enough. What do we care about? We care about supporting our families. We care about living wages, supporting our unions. Because it is important. What else do we care about? The right to vote. So we're going to fight to make sure that we fight against voter suppression, especially for us. So it's all about stability. We care about sanity in government, right? Respect for the truth. Leaders that have character and principles and values, which we don't have anymore for some people in the Republican Party. I have no respect for that party. There are no values. But do we care about the environment, climate that affect all of us? But do we care about access to health care? At the height of COVID, we have 23 counties in Baltimore City, 24 local jurisdictions in Maryland. The county with the highest number of COVID-19 cases was Gorgeous Prince George's County. The zip code in the entire state with the highest number of COVID-19 cases was 20783. Who lives there? The immigrant community, the black and brown community. And why is that? Because of those social determinants of health, right? The way we live, lack of money, lack of education, the environment, all of that affect us. What do we fight for and we care about? Respect for democracy. It is so important. What do we care about? What is worth fighting? What is worth leaving it all out there when you go out today and you knock on those doors? respect for people of all kinds is really important. So you see when you go out there, you speak from your heart and you break it down and you let people know what is at stake, which is really important for us to come out and vote, because our vote is our voice and it is so important. And we're not voting for us, we're voting for our sisters and brothers that cannot vote. We're voting for our future, for our children. So give it your all, and thank you so much for being here and for your generosity and for supporting us, elected officials up here. Because the power is not ours, the powers belong to you. And you support us by voting for us, and we should not forget that. Thank you so much.
So before I do the next introduction, which I know you're all waiting for, I just want to recognize our Secretary of State and WDC. And Board of Education, Julie Yang. And thank you, Jocelyn, for everything you're doing for Maryland working families. We are very, very fortunate that you are fighting for us. So now it is with immense pleasure that I introduce our keynote speaker today, Governor Wes Moore. It's such an honor to be able to introduce him to you this morning. Governor Moore is a combat veteran, a best-selling author, a small business owner, a Rhodes Scholar, a former CEO of one of the nation's largest anti-poverty organizations, and now he is our governor. Wes has devoted his life's work to the basic principle, no matter where you start in life, you deserve an equal opportunity to succeed, a job you can raise a family on, and a future you can look forward to. The first time I saw and heard then-candidate Wes Moore was at a Democratic rally in Silver Spring long before last year's primary elections. It was clear then he was a rising star. And what also quickly became very clear over the months leading up to the election was that Wes had integrity, sincerity, wisdom, and he had a clear vision of whom he intended to be and how he intended to serve. And that vision has not changed. Under his leadership, we have raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour, passed the Family Prosperity Act to put money back into the pockets of working families, benefiting over 34,000 children, leading with laws protecting reproductive and trans healthcare rights to expanding access to healthcare, and strengthening our behavioral healthcare system. Our governor is working to build a stronger state and stronger communities. We are so lucky to have him leading the way for Maryland as our 63rd governor, and it is my distinct honor to introduce Governor Wes Moore.
Good morning. Good morning. Oh, y'all are beautiful. Y'all are beautiful. First, can we please give a huge round of applause to Tazim, your remarkable leadership. We are so inspired by you. We are so inspired by your vision, by your energy, and I tell you, this is a remarkable crowd right here. This is a remarkable crowd. WDC, can we please give a round of applause to all the leadership that you all can see. I'm thankful because right now we're in a room of friends. We're in a room of folks who understand how to put up a good fight. We're in a room of folks who understand what it means to go out there and win. For sure. and to never forget who it is that we're fighting for. You know, we always say, if you never forget who you're fighting for, you never get exhausted by the fight.
Yes, sir.
Because no one promises easy. No one promises simple. No one promises this is going to be a straight line. No one promises that everybody's in the same place that we are. But the thing that we do promise is this: if we're willing to put in the work, victory is ours. If we're willing to put in the time, victory is ours. If we're willing to go out and work and knock on doors and convince and tell our stories, that victory is ours. And I'm so grateful, by the way, to be in this fight, to be with this work, with the remarkable people who are up on the stage. First, Jocelyn Pena-Melnick, I say, to be inside of Annapolis working with you, and not just working with my friend in this work, but someone who I always know is going to be consistent about where your compass and where your values are. It means everything to me and all of us. So bless you and thank you so much. Congressman Ivey, and I can tell you, I did dress up. I wore long pants. But we are so grateful to have you as our champion down in Capitol Hill, because we always know that when it comes time to the fight that is taking place in Washington, knowing that we are going to have the person who is not just going to best represent our values, but is going to help protect the values of Marylanders and bring back everything to Maryland that we deserve. And I said Maryland shouldn't get its fair distribution. It should get its unfair distribution because we're so good. Having Congressman Ivey out there being our advocate, our champion, means the world. So bless you, Congressman. Thank you. And my forever chair, who, we know, it is funny because when you hear Yvette, she's like, yeah, I'm stepping away from the party, and then you see everything else she's doing. It's like, you're giving a very new definition to this word about taking time. But it's because you have consistently been a vessel for the work. Amen. You've consistently been our leader and our friend. And we are so thankful that this is just simply a new way of you being able to serve, because you are going to forever be our partner in this work. God bless you and thank you. And I say too, where you say there's this old African proverb that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And as Chair Lewis says, and if you want to go fast and far, vote Democrat. Because we're not choosing. We're going to do both. This is the moment when we are going to do both. And you think about, and I tell you, one of the really powerful things, do y'all mind if I come down here?
Oh, yeah.
One of the great things, and if I come in, can y'all still hear me in the back? Y'all still hear me? Bring a mic. Do I need to go back up?
No. Mike, you can bring the mic.
Oh, you got one mic? All right. Oh, thank you. So, can y'all hear me? Yeah. All right. So one of the great things about being the governor, right? One of the great things about state politics is, states really are our laboratories for the work. Right? States are a place where you can really get creative and you can really be thoughtful. And in states, we don't wait for permission. Right? So when we said in the state of Maryland that we wanted to have the most all-out assault on child poverty that this state has ever seen, we did not have to ask for permission or wait for someone to tap us on the shoulder and say, go do it. We started working together, working in partnership with the remarkable legislature. And can I just give a shout out to all of our legislative partners and members of the General Assembly that we have here today. We didn't wait. And so in our first months, when we said we were going to have the most all-out assault on child poverty the state had ever seen, we did things like, yes, getting Maryland to a $15 minimum wage, because gone should be the days when you have people who are working jobs, and in some cases working multiple jobs, and still living at or below a poverty line. That we were going to stop this disincentivizing of work, and we're going to provide opportunities for people to be able to have pathways to real prosperity. When we said that we weren't going to wait, and we did things like making sure you can make permanent the child tax credit, which has been one of the most effective tools in combating child poverty that this country has ever seen, and making sure we're increasing the earned income tax credit. We said we're not waiting, that now was the time to do it. And when people said, well, you know what, here's what's going to happen. Your unemployment rate's going to go crazy, and it's going to disincentivize people to work. And when we say that we believe in collective bargaining, we believe in making sure that we're supporting our unions, oh, you're going to destroy business. Interesting. Well, let me just give people an update on where we are right now. Maryland right now has the lowest unemployment rate in the entire country, and it's gone 5 straight months. And it's gone 5 straight months of historically low unemployment. Do not tell me that we have to choose between supporting our businesses and supporting our workers by making sure that we're driving economic activity and also making sure that we are going to end the scourge of child poverty in our society. Do not tell me we have to choose. When we said, and we were very clear, that we were going to create an administration that looks like the state of Maryland, that everyone around the state can look at this administration and proudly say, I see myself. And I know I'm being represented. And we were very intentional about the fact that when you look at this administration, this is by far the most diverse administration in the history of the state of Maryland. To include remarkable leaders like our fantastic Secretary of State, Susan Lee. History-making Susan Lee, but also saying you can focus on making sure that you have an administration that looks like our beautiful state, and know that you're not compromising excellence. And in fact, truly focusing on inclusion and excellence go hand in hand.
Yes, sir.
And we want them to choose. That when we said in this moment that we were going to address this scourge of violence, Maryland has gone 8 straight years, where we've watched the homicide rate in the state of Maryland nearly double over the past 8 years. For 8 years, the non-fatal shooting rate in the state of Maryland has doubled in the past 8 years. Baltimore City, our neighbor to the north, has gone 8 straight years of 300 plus homicides. And we came in from our earliest days, and I said, I refuse, absolutely refuse, to be a governor who is going to spend my time giving thoughts and prayers and attending funerals and not passing a single piece of legislation and not doing anything to address this issue on TV. And so in our first months, when we decided that this was going to be the time when we were going to make an aggressive push against these illegal guns that continue to flood into our communities and flood into our neighborhoods, when we said in partnership with the legislature that we were going to pass important pieces of legislation, and I know Senator Wallstrike is here, Senator Wallstrike and the work around SB1, important piece of legislation that said things like that you should not be able to carry a firearm into a nursery. Crazy idea. Common sense gun law saying you shouldn't be able to carry a firearm into an amusement park or into a government building. Common sense gun laws that says things like we were going to raise the age to 21 because a 17-year-old should not be able to purchase a gun. Common sense gun laws that says things like if a person has a history of mental illness and a history of violence, that they should not be able to purchase a firearm. And I know not everybody was excited about it. I mean, literally, I think before The ink dried, we got sued by the NRA. And that's okay, because there's two things that we knew. One, that those common sense pieces of gun legislation that were passed in the state of Maryland, that they were common sense not just because we knew that we were standing on firm legal ground, but it's because we were standing on firm moral ground. And we knew that combination was going to help address the issue, and while I know we still have work to do and we still have things we need to get done, despite watching what's happening and the trend lines that we're seeing in other states around the country right now, where are we in the state of Maryland? Homicide rates in the state of Maryland, down 19%. Non-Tennessee, down 15%. Baltimore City, down 22%. Do not tell me we have to choose. That we can do both. That at a time when we said that Maryland could actually get a chance to lead, and now Maryland is now the first state in the country that has a service year option for our high school graduates. First state in the country. Because we knew we believed in experiential learning. We believed in giving students an earned financial cushion. And yes, we believe in this time of this political divisiveness and this vitriol that it is service that will help to save us. That we need to be a state that gets to know each other again. That we need to be a state that serves together. And I know I saw it when I was running for governor. I had people who I served with in Afghanistan who came and door knocked on our behalf. Many of them were not Marylanders. My former XO literally drove from New Hampshire to come down and come door knocking. Many of them were not Democrats. But they simply came to come knock on doors because they wanted to tell people, let me tell you about the guy that I served with. Service is sticky. Yes. Service will save us. And Maryland has chosen to lead. That when we say that we can do things and not wait for other states to give us permission, like the fact that right now the state of Maryland, because of the Healthcare for Heroes Act, and again, thank you to the legislature, the partnership we had, because of the Healthcare for Heroes Act, Maryland is now the first state in this country that creates, and I see you shaking your head, and thank you for your leadership on it as well, is now the first state in this country that has a pathway for free dental care and free health care for members of our National Guard. Because if a person is willing to put on the uniform of this country, if a person is willing to throw our state flag on their shoulder, do not tell me that they should not have dental care. Our states are the laboratories. Our states are the places that we can push. Our states are the places that we can lead. And yes, our states are also the places where we can push back. That when we hear a Supreme Court, by the way, I had always come up with this assumption that the Supreme Court, despite its very uneven history, when I think about a pride of the Supreme Court, it does come back to this idea that this has been a place that actually works to increase rights for people, right? When we think about some of the cases, some of the Supreme Court cases that we think of with pride, those are times when the Supreme Court actually asked us to live up to our better angels. That the Supreme Court actually led society. And the Supreme Court gave a legal justification for something that was something that the people were asking for. And when you think about some of the darkest days of the Supreme Court, it was times when the Supreme Court actually justified the demons. And I think about the fact that right now we have a Supreme Court who are making decisions on things like saying that one of the most difficult decisions that any person or any woman would ever have to make, that now somehow I, or a member of the legislature, or a judge, or anybody else should have any say in that decision. But in the state of Maryland, we said, we understand the decision, but we're going to push back. And that's why it did not take a year for the Supreme Court decision to happen that pushed back and demolished Roe v. Wade, that the state of Maryland said, well, in Maryland, we're going to do differently. And that's why in our first month, we were able to do things like pass laws that increase privacy, that increase protections for both patients and providers, and now next year, abortion rights and abortion care will be on the ballot in the state of Maryland. Not in Maryland. That in Maryland we chose to push back. That in Maryland we chose to say that not only is abortion rights and not only is abortion health care, and that this was going to be a safe haven for abortion rights, it is going to be the case not just while I'm governor, but long after. That in the state of Maryland we are going to protect this right. And despite the fact that, and I know we're all getting ramped up to head down to Virginia because not all of our neighbors feel the same way. Where if you look at what's happening right now in the state of Virginia, when people say, what is on the ballot? And right now in these special elections, in these elections in Virginia, basic access to reproductive care is on the ballot. Because we all know that their governor feels very differently. And is pushing hard to shift the legislature to do things like figuring out, well, what is the week restriction that we want to have? Is it 5 weeks? Is it 7 weeks? Is it this? Is it that? It's actually the same conversation that's being had. States have power to push back. Then when the Supreme Court does things like the Bruin decision and decides that the answer to being able to address gun violence is basically making sure that everyone is armed, that states have the power to push back and say those aren't our values. That states have the chance to lead. In Maryland, we're leading. But we also have to understand this, is that the values that we are pushing for and advocating for, they do not stop at our boundaries. That we have to be able to go out and prepare to do the work for our neighbors, because the values that we are pushing for, they are universal human values, and we will fight. And so I know that today, it's a Sunday, it's football Sunday, it's Orioles Sunday, we got a lot going on right now. That's right, go O's. We have World Series baseball in Baltimore this year, watch my words. But hear this, we don't get weary in the work. The reason that we are able to work in partnership and get so much done in just these first 9 months, is because you all put in the work. You door knocked. You advocated. You make phone calls. You called your friends and your neighbors. You made sure that everybody knew what was online. You made sure that as we went to the legislative session, that we didn't just get the remarkable legislators that we have on board, who are both introducing legislation and pushing for ideas to make sure this legislative session actually saw our values. But you made sure that the entire state understood what was happening and that we were coming back for more. We don't get weary of the work. We get energized. And so I ask you all this, with the same passion that you did last November, bring that passion today. Because last November you changed the world, and you were just getting started. As you go knock on doors today, remember that door you are knocking on can go change the world. When you're going out there and having that 15th conversation, when your voice is getting hoarse like mine is right now, remember that last conversation can be one that can shape an election. That door that you knock on can be the door that's going to move our neighbors into a better and a guiding light. Now's the time. There is no rest. There's no weary. There is no sit back. Now's the time we push. Because together we are going to make this the time when those who came before us that they hope for. and those who will come after us that they deserve. Now's the time we do the work. And if we do that, as you showed last November, victory is ours. So God bless you guys. Thank you for all you do. Thank you.